Okay, so I have a handout for my clients that I call the well-behaved dog lifestyle, because there are some things that trainers do and people who don't have problems with their dogs tend to do, basically that make it so that the dog is being rewarded for the right things and being corrected for the wrong things. And until the dog understands the difference between those two things, right and wrong, you are setting up the environment so it's likely to be successful. That's called management. So using things like crates, leashes, the place cot, stuff like that. And it's perfectly fine to have a combination of techniques of training and management. You decide what suits your lifestyle. I find that often people are happier with a much lower standard than I am, but it's up to you. It's your life, it's your dog. You decide what the rules are. So as long as your dog is not bothering other people, not being a menace, then you decide how you want to live your life. Okay, so having a well-behaved dog is kind of a lifestyle. People who have well-behaved dogs, they have a good idea of what they want their dog to be doing at any given moment. Like I said, they reward good choices. They enforce their commands. So they are reliable, consistent, so their dog can be reliable and consistent. And what I mean by enforcing is they have some way of making sure the dog does the command when they ask. So that might be a leash cue. It might be if you tell the dog to sit, you put your hand on their butt. It could be a lot of different things, but the dog knows that there is a consequence for not doing the correct thing. It doesn't have to be a severe consequence. It just has to be something that brings on the correct behavior. That's why it's called a correction. And you have to teach the dog what that means. They're not going to automatically know what a leash pop means or what your hand on their butt means if you're guiding them into a sit. So that's part of the training process. You can't use the correction until you teach it to the dog. People with well-behaved dogs do not give commands without following through. So if my dog is not on an e-collar, not on a leash, not on anything, I don't have treats, I'm probably not even going to call him to come, because I know if he decides not to, I have nothing I can do. All I can do is chase him, and I'm not going to do that because I don't want him to learn to run away from me. So I would rather set up the situation from the beginning so that what I want is definitely going to happen. When they're puppies and young dogs, they're on a long line. They're on a leash in the house. I don't allow dogs to practice unwanted behaviors, and I have an idea of what those things might be, because dogs go toward things they like and they avoid things they don't like. So if there's a bunch of bread on the countertop, I can pretty reliably guess that the dog is going to be interested in that. So if it's a dog that is not trained, I'm going to have that dog on a leash, so I can guide them away from that. I can guide them to place. I can send them into another command. But basically, I'm the one controlling the environment. You control everything about your dog's life, believe it or not. Whether you're doing a good job of it or not right now, you are actually making that choice, whether it's conscious or unconscious. Kind of related to that, people with well-behaved dogs do not give them unearned freedom. So what that means is if the dog maybe isn't potty trained, or maybe the dog tends to get overexcited, jump on people, jump on the furniture, like run on the back of the couch, and that's something you don't want, then they don't let the dog do that. So much of dog training is as simple as, well, don't let him do that if you don't want him to do that. And then it's on you. You are holding the leash. You are the one setting up where the baby gates are and enforcing your commands with the leash, the e-collar, whatever tool you're using. It's not really dependent on the tool. It's dependent on the technique of being consistent, always rewarding good choices, always correcting bad choices, and having the dog understand how to avoid that correction. Then there is no stress. The dog understands, oh, I don't want to step on that spiky pine cone in the yard because it feels uncomfortable. I'm just not going to do that. So it doesn't mean that your dog is afraid of pine cones. It doesn't mean your dog is afraid of the correction. It just means they know how to avoid it. The other aspect, things that people with well-behaved dogs don't do, is going to dog parks or unstructured doggy daycare, kind of related to what I said before, because your dog is likely learning things you don't want them to learn, and you have no way to control it. You don't have control of other people or of their dogs, so you can't make the situation better for your dog if things are not going well. So I wouldn't put my dog in that situation that's totally out of my control. Obviously you can't control the world, but you can decide what situations you put your dog in and what would be reasonable given his or her current level of training. Likewise, I don't allow dogs to greet each other on a leash because it often goes very badly. There can be a lot of frustration when they're both tugging at the end of the leash and they want to say hi to each other, or maybe one dog wants to kill that other dog and the other dog is afraid and knows it can't escape. There's a lot of ways for it to go wrong. There's only one way for it to go right. And I would much rather have the leash walks be when my dog is paying attention to me, not, oh, I might get to play with that dog. Oh, I might get to say hi to that person. It's the time for my dog to connect to me, and we are focused on each other, and I'm very present and with my dog. I'm not on my phone. I'm not doing all kinds of other things. We are working on being with each other and focusing our attention on each other. Day to day, what the good dog lifestyle looks like is the dog is either crated or tethered to you at all times, 100% of the time, until the dog is reliable with verbal commands and is kind of getting with the program of, oh, I come in the house, I go lay down on my bed, or I go lay down on the floor and I'm calm, or I go and chew my bone, whatever it is that you decide is the acceptable behavior inside, because you have enforced it so many times, then the dog learns that's just the expectation. But the dog is not given that freedom to make the choice before you've practiced many, many times that the dog is, making that happen. I also like to practice the dog doing nothing a lot. So that's a pretty important part of just being a pet dog, is doing nothing. So we practice it, and yeah, I'm not in dog trainer mode. I'm looking at my notes. I do that because I'm not in dog trainer mode 100% of the time. I also have times when I'm greeting people, when someone comes in the door. It's not always a training moment. So those are just a couple tips that I have for having a better behaved dog day to day. And if you're interested, you can put in your email and I will send you my little well-behaved dog worksheet. And as always, we are located in Maryland. We're happy to help you with your training needs, and our website is fluentdogs.com.